What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down something big that's happened to the market that's helping it pump the way it is so far. Something very, very new that's happening. What you should be watching for as time progresses. But before we get into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon, in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, guys, right now, SPY is actually green in the pre-market. The market's still holding up very nicely, and I actually made a false prediction yesterday. I was actually wrong about how I thought the market might turn from here because we had some bearish signals, but many of those signals have been invalidated right now because the market is once again breaking some key resistance. So why is this happening? I believe I made a mistake yesterday, and that is because I failed to account for this. The State of the Union is actually going to be today at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And because of this, I think that this is one of the main reasons why they may attempt to pump the market instead. It wouldn't be good if the whole market is just like crashing, crashing, crashing while this is going on. And I think that politics may have been the reason that this got in the way. So I'm very sorry about that, guys. I'm sorry I didn't really account for this as much. I'm a kind of person that just wants to stay away from politics a lot of the time, but this was very, very important. But despite that, I want to talk about some other things affecting the markets now in sequential order. First and foremost, we had some data that just came out. We just had initial jobless claims at 217,000, aligning with expectations alongside continuing jobless claims very close to them as well. As soon as this data came out, SPY ended up breaking 512 and the market started pushing a little bit more. And then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have Jerome Powell giving his testimony in front of the Senate's committee. This is going to be important because he's going to be talking about housing, labor, and things like that. That's going to be important. So get ready for Jerome Powell once again. He's going to be speaking with the Senate's committee, and whatever he says could still affect the markets again. Now, usually there's a lot more volatility on the first day that he speaks. Second day tends to not be as crazy, but he could cause some moves here and there. Besides that, we have Mester giving a speech at 11:30. We have some bill auctions at that time, and then we have mortgage rates, and that's pretty much it for the day. There's nothing else too crazy coming out. We also have some unemployment data coming out on Friday, so I'll talk more about that later. But besides that, that's all we're seeing in terms of data. So later on for today, we have Joe Biden giving the State of the Union. The market may respond to this, so get ready for this, and that's going to be very important. Now, for earnings, we just had a couple of them coming out. We had Kroger, not to mention Big Lots, announcing their earnings. Kroger did very, very well. They actually beat on EPS and revenue. Very, very strong looking growth. And what's very important is their guidance. Their full year of 2023 was pretty good for them, but then their guidance was also pretty strong. So with a good outlook, with their consistent margins and a beat on earnings, and a nice growth in their revenue relative to what we saw from before, the share price is actually up quite a bit because everything's very consistent. So they did relatively well. However, for Big Lots, on the other hand, they beat earnings by 8 cents. Revenue was in line with expectations, but we saw a lot of adjustments to the EPS, at least for the future outlooks. And their overall guidance was not as strong as what a lot of analysts wanted. So we are seeing Big Lots down a little bit. It's not that crazy. They did beat on EPS and revenue, but it's just slightly to the downside. The way the market's looking right now, we did see the market drop a little bit yesterday. Not drop, it kind of like popped and then dropped, but we still closed kind of green. But we started dropping in the after hours, and this is still making headlines about that. Now the market's trying to gap up and push back up as we're approaching Jerome Powell again. So just get careful, and we'll see what happens with the markets as we approach Jerome Powell's State of the Union. Once again, we have Jerome Powell speaking again. He's going to be talking a lot about interest rates and also what the Fed's planning to do. But most of what he said yesterday is probably just going to be repeated. So get ready for that. On top of this, there's been some talk right here about how New York Community Bank Corp has sold off and recovered on Wednesday after some news that came out. The bank announced a $1 billion raise from several investment firms, including the former Treasury Stephen Munix. I may have said his name wrong, but Munchkins, I may have said that wrong. But basically, his strategic capital. And that's going to be very important because he's going to be joining the bank's board of directors. So that's making headlines as well. There's been some talk about Joe Biden making some changes to current pharmaceutical drug regulations. Not going to talk too much about that. And finally, there's been a lot of talk right now about artificial intelligence engineer Microsoft issuing a stark warning about the company's AI image creator, Copilot Design. He says that the frequently produced production of content that is once again not as great could infringe on copyright laws. So you have to be very, very careful with this. That is something that's worth noting, and it's been a little bit negative for Microsoft. So that being said, that's it for the headlines. Tesla still has all this negative news, which is why it's underperforming. But now let's break down these charts. So for SPY, when Jerome Powell started his speech yesterday, we did see SPY dip a little bit. We could see this dip a little bit again, but ultimately we're on an uptrend right now. We're on an uptrend on SPY. We've broken past 512, so there's a chance it's going to try to approach the all-time high again, and this thing may continue to push higher. With Jerome Powell giving his little speech today, there is a chance that if this does come down just a little bit, it could retest this support right here, then just continue to push higher. I think that when Jerome Powell speaks, we might see this actually dip just a little bit, but then ultimately it might get bought back up and start pushing towards the end of the day, and also going into tomorrow with not Jerome Powell, with Joe Biden's State of the Union. So there's a chance the market's going to try to push again. Watch for this very carefully. It may come down just slightly, but then continue on this uptrend. We're not ready to turn just yet, guys. And the reason for that is because of politics. Plain and simple, politics is still getting in the way. All right, so watch resistance at 512.5. And we also have this 513.5 area, followed by this 514 zone. That's going to be resistance. For support, make sure you watch 511.25, followed by this 510 range where this yellow trend line happens to be. We could drop a little bit. I could see a little dip coming with Jerome Powell's testimony, just a little dip, and then it may not be that significant. It could just be into the 511s, if not where this yellow trend line is. And then we could just bounce after that and start pushing things to Joe Biden's State of the Union and continue to approach the all-time high. SPY is still looking bullish, so we'll look for a little drop and bounce. I have the same view of the QQQ. QQQ is actually trying to uptrend again, forming a bullish wedge. So I think that the way this wedge is going to form is going to be like this. Basically, we could continue to push as we approach this resistance. And then I think that if we do get some kind of rejection, we could come back down to like 440, back up, and just continue to consolidate and eventually get a breakouts to fill this gap. So I do ultimately see more upside coming to the QQQ. Might come down first, just a little bit, consolidate, and then eventually break out. So watch for that very carefully. Make sure you watch resistance at 442, watch support close to 440. And then if we break out, watch 443.5 and 445 as resistance. Might come down, consolidate, and break out very, very soon. Joe Biden could be one of the main reasons as to why this may be pushing. For Nvidia, Nvidia is on a rip right now. This thing actually broke past 900. I actually thought it might reject, but it's actually stronger than what I was expecting. So that's great for Nvidia. We're now going to be approaching this resistance. So we have this right here. I'm going to be watching 908 as well, because historically that's like a level that I want to pay attention to based off the historical trend. There's 908 right up here. And then we have 912 followed by 920 are going to be some resistance levels worth watching. And let me just note that so far, Nvidia is showing a lot of strength. So watch 905 as resistance, 900 as support. If we lose 900, watch this support zone around this 892 to 894 area. And then there's 885 below that and 882. Resistance, watch 905 to 908, 912, 920, followed by 925. Overall, Nvidia is on a very, very nice uptrend. It's looking very, very strong right now. There's a very good chance it could continue to push and help the market as time progresses. For Tesla stock, Tesla, in my opinion, is looking uh, not too good. It's continuing to downtrend as we predicted yesterday. It looks very, very weak right now. And we just barely hit 172. We're still at this very, very low level. So when Jerome Powell gives his testimony, there could be a risk of Tesla coming down a bit. I think upon open, it's going to pop and then come back down to 173.75, make its way down to the 172s, pop back up and just trade sideways. And later on, there is a chance Tesla could try to bounce with the market. But the thing is, that's not too good about Tesla is the fact that there's all this bad news, and it's been heavily underperforming again. So watch for a little pop when we open. We might actually try to push to fill this gap a little bit, back up to like 176, come back down towards 173.75, trade sideways, We might just trade very, very sideways, then eventually try to push a little bit at the end of the day if the market starts pushing. But overall, I still think that Tesla's looking kind of lackluster. It's looking very, very weak. It's not in the strongest of places. It's still on a downtrend, and that is something that's worth noting. So that being said, look for a little pop and drop on Tesla, sideways price action. It could try to push at the end of the day with the market, but still not looking the strongest. Last but not least, we have Apple stock. Apple, in my opinion, is still showing some love. So it came down to about 167.5, a little bit above that. And now it's trying to rebound. So now Apple's showing a little bit of life, trying to get back up to 170. Watch 169 and 168.15 as supports. Watch 170 and 170.9 as resistance. Apple might try to push for 170, just kind of consolidate around here. I think it's going to initially reject, then come back up to 170 and eventually try to push to 171. That's what I think is going to happen. That's my prediction. A little rejection and a bounce. So we'll see how it goes. With that being said, guys, I want to apologize one more time. I didn't really account for the State of the Union as much yesterday. This may be used as a catalyst to try to push the market higher. That's what they like to do, guys. Politics gets in the way. So the best thing we could really do is just accept it and try to be open-minded nonetheless. Just a few more super micros now pumping again. This thing looks like it could be approaching closer to its all-time high all over again. And we'll have to see how that ends up going. Sorry about this, guys. I think my chart just kind of frozen. But anyways, other charts are starting to push as well. You can see Amazon and Meta are trying to follow the same trend. I have a little glitch right here, but I'm going to have to end the video from here because I will need to upload this as fast as possible before the market opens. So that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. Hope you guys have a great day. The markets may follow a trend where it pushes upon open. It slows down a little bit with Jerome Powell's testimony, and then we get another end of the day push approaching the State of the Union, and we could even push more tomorrow and try to approach all-time highs thanks to that. All right, so that's the possibility. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.